The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. On my segment, we'll be talking with Randy Jones, who's the Director of Aging Partners, and we'll be talking about how the agency has made some changes to cope with COVID-19. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell-Drake. I want you to take a good look around your house at all the stuff that you've accumulated over the years. Do we really need all that stuff? What are we going to do with it? Well, Janine Bryan, Changing Spaces, is with us today, and she's got some great advice. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. All of us depend on the media for so many different things, whether it's news, information, commercials, finding out about the latest products, or the latest sports scores. But it seems to be an area that is changing rather dramatically. We have a fabulous guest with us today. It is Dr. Sherry Vale, who is the new Dean of the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. She's going to talk to us about the media and the delivery of information and how it's changing. Don't go away.
It's wonderful being with you on Live and Learn today. I'm Jean Stowes, and this national championship bat I am holding has more than a few notable names inscribed. Randy Jones, Bump Wills, Bruce Bhakti, Mike Pereira, not to mention my own very special guest's name, Jean Stowes. Please stay tuned to hear about Jean's journey from catching baseballs to catching babies.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hi everybody, welcome to Live and Learn. My name's Kim Hachia. Today we're coming to you by the miracle of Zoom technology, and I give a special shout out to my friends at LNK TV who are making this possible, that we can do this from our socially distanced spaces. My guest today is Randy Jones. He's the Director of Aging Partners. Aging Partners is the agency that produces the television show that you're watching. So welcome, Randy.
Thanks, Kim. Good morning.
Thanks. So Randy, talk a little bit briefly about what Aging Partners is as an agency. Who do you serve? Is it a city agency, a state agency? How does all of that work?
Well, I think, we're commonly known as Aging Partners. And I think because of that, and it doesn't have a city name to it, oftentimes people think we're kind of a standalone nonprofit organization. We've been around since the late 60s and early 70s. And we are indeed a department of the city of Lincoln. We're actually just recently named as the Department of Aging for the city of Lincoln.
Oh. We
focus our attention on those persons who are age 60 and over, or other persons with disabilities. That's our focus. We are funded federally through the Older Americans Act. And so that act was developed in the late 60s to help support seniors with a variety of things like making sure that they live independently. Our department has over 100 employees, and we're in partnership with 7 other counties around Lancaster County to support those county programs for the seniors.
Cool. Part of the reason why we're on Zoom is because we're in the continuing COVID-19 situation. And I know when that came up in March, that posed a lot of new problems for the agency. And we want to talk today about what you guys have done to ensure safety, but also continue to offer services to our population.
Sure. Well, we're commonly known for our senior centers that are located throughout the 7-county area and in Lancaster and Lincoln. And those centers provide a daily meal that's very important to the seniors that come in for them. It's both the meal itself, which provides a balanced nutrition for them, but also the socialization. So because we have to close the centers, and they're still closed at the time of this taping due to COVID, we had to figure out a way of continuing to support those seniors. So we've been distributing home delivered meals and delivering them to the most frail in Lincoln. So far, during this time, we've delivered over 10,000 hot meals.
Wow.
We've also distributed fresh fruits and vegetables. That's an important part of their nutrition. and also distributed comfort and sanitizing items so that they can safely wear masks and cleanse things around them. We struggle with the socialization piece. That's very important to seniors, and I think that's kind of been a wake-up call for people as we experience this being closed into our homes for a long period of time. And some of those seniors don't have spouses or partners, so there's a lot of loneliness out there. The Mayor's Department and Aging Partners developed a program called Neighbor Link, which is a new program for the city, and we're connecting volunteers who want to support seniors with the seniors themselves. And they'll do everything from picking up library books to grocery shopping or running errands, or it might be just a phone call once a week to chat and socialize on the phone. That's been a very successful program and really developed long-term relationships between those volunteers and the seniors.
So if somebody wanted to be one of those volunteers that would connect with the senior, how would they go about doing that?
I would just encourage them to call us at 441-7070. And we're looking for both volunteers as well as any individual that's would like assistance in connecting with someone.
Wow.
We've also helped children connect with seniors. We started a program called Sunshine Kids for Seniors. And that's a program where the kids or young adults will scan colorful pictures or notes to us, and then we will share them with seniors. Maybe it's part of some of our seniors use them as placemats. Some of them are posting them up on their windows and others on their walls. And it just brings a cheery feeling for the day for the seniors we're serving. We serve seniors of any income level. And part of the Older Americans Act requires that we not direct our services just to low income families, for example. Getting older and entering into this journey of our lives can be confusing, especially as you're trying to navigate Medicaid or Medicare or retirement. And so there's a lot of questions that people have. And that's really what we're built around, is to help people move through that journey, get some answers to their questions, and assist them sometimes.
So you're still offering those services of how to navigate through Medicare and Social Security and all that, I guess by phone, or how do people do
yes,
that?
One of the steps we took was we supported our employees to work from home. And that's worked out very well. It provides a protection, because if one of the employees gets sick, then we're limiting that exposure, not only to our staff, but they're spreading to other seniors. We're being very, very cautious.
Right.
We're connecting with about 1,000 seniors every 2 weeks with check-in calls to make sure that they are well. And this financial counseling, the legal counseling, all of that is still occurring, but remotely in a different way.
Right. That's not only a hardship for seniors, but it's also kind of a hardship on your staff, because I bet that they are, they're missing that one-to-one contact too, which is part of the reward of working with an agency that's so human service oriented, I would suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, by the nature of our business, it attracts people that are very social in nature, and it can be very stressful. And sometimes they rely on each other to help relieve that stress and to talk through challenges. But with technology such as Zoom or other forms of doing this remotely, like video, it really assists them in connecting with each other. We had a staff meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we had 79 people on Zoom participating in an all-staff meeting.
Right. I have to say that the Zoom meetings that I do, although they're not wholly satisfactory, but it is kind of fun to connect with other people and see faces and chat with people kind of in real time. That is a benefit, I would have to say.
Absolutely.
So, you in a previous life worked for the Red Cross, and your emergency work was more outer directed, but now you had to kind of do that same thing within the agency. Did you guys have a plan, or did you kind of make it up as you go along, or both?
Well, it's kind of both. And you have to feel comfortable with that.
Right.
I think, of course, this is unprecedented. And we didn't even face this when I worked for the Red Cross. But, the lessons I learned during the Red Cross was being prepared, having a plan of action. And we did, in fact, have an updated disaster plan for the agency. But it's also understanding the incident command system, which the city is using through the fire department and health department. It requires some fast-paced management styles and decision-making. You don't have the luxury of time to take decisions to a committee sometimes in this kind of environment. And it also really emphasizes, I hope, people's personal responsibility to prepare for emergencies themselves. We can't always rely on somebody else to take care of us. And so what that means is personal protection or personal preparation and planning, and also for people to adopt seniors or friends or neighbors who may need a social support. And this same kind of support can be of value during a tornado or a flood or other emergency.
Right. The other thing that's kind of odd about this is it's just been so sort of slow rolling, and then it just has kind of just gotten to luckily, I guess we haven't gotten to the hard rolling boil, but we're just kind of at that back of the stove simmer thing that it just kind of feels like we're not quite getting over the hump yet. And, you never want to get in a situation, I guess, where it is just the full on tornado, derecho
right
situation. But this is in some ways equally stressful because it's just we have so many unknowns. And I think that's the most stressful part of any situation, is just not knowing what's coming next.
Absolutely. And you see that in natural disasters too. There's a mourning phase that people go through. I mean, we're mourning being able to get out in the community. We're mourning separation from our colleagues. We're mourning. We had a couple deaths in our family and we could not mourn their loss the same way. So, part of the phase of getting through mourning is acceptance and understanding and communication. And we're kind of stuck in that phase where I think we've come to some acceptance, but we've got to continue to communicate with each other more and more and see hope, at the end of the tunnel in order to get through that mourning phase.
And in some ways, although sometimes seniors lose a little bit of resilience, because many of us have gone through difficult times, we actually maybe are a little bit more prepared because we have lived through that and we know that we can get through it. And so that's going to be an interesting thing too, the things that we can learn from each other and kind of feel supported. And I think it's great that we can feel supported by our own community in our city. I think that's important to remember that we do, that the city really does, it sounds weird, but say the city cares about me, but I feel like my city does care about me and some
Absolutely.
of the decisions the city has made.
And that's a really good point, Kim. Some of the younger folks, even folks my age, look back on our lives and we haven't had experiences like this.
Right.
Some of the seniors have, and they've been through it, and they can share that there is hope. We will get through this, and it's possible to get even stronger afterwards.
Right. And that's interesting. Do you think as an agency, this has made you guys stronger and a little bit more nimble and more resilient?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's shown our staff that we can be responsive and be quicker to changing, and you've got to adapt in order to serve people now. Right.
I know one thing that Aging Partners is known for is the fitness situation, and that's kind of still kept rolling, right?
Well, we shut things down temporarily, but we're by the time of this airing, we will have started to open them up on a limited basis under very careful guidelines from the health department. But soon we'll be opening our foot clinics and fitness center because they add health to seniors in the community.
Right, right. That's really important. So what else do we need to tell our audience about how Aging Partners is helping to support our community?
Well, everybody can play a role in supporting each other in the community, and I would first encourage people to call us if they need assistance themselves, and that's 402-441-7070, or they can go to our website, which is lincoln.ne.gov/aging. We're working with UNMC right now to evaluate and study social isolation and see how we can play a role moving forward. So we're really looking forward to the outcome of that survey and kind of adapting some of our programming.
Right. That's fantastic. Thank you, Randy, for being my guest today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, even though we're miles apart. And I'd just like to remind our audience that it's never too late to live and learn.
Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and today we're going to be talking about something that is going to affect all of us, because as we age, we've accumulated a lot of stuff. And what are we going to do with all the stuff that we have in our house? Kids don't want it. Who wants it? Well, with us today is somebody who knows about this, Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces. Where do we begin, Janine?
Well, that's a good question, Lita. You're absolutely right. We do tend to accumulate a lot of things over the years. And you're right. Your kids may not, well, they certainly don't want all of it. They may want some of it, but you're going to have to deal with a lot of it. So what I think one way to really start, the best way to start, is to think about, what do I really want to leave behind to my kids? You know, if you think back to maybe generations before you, maybe ask yourself, did you have to clean out your parents' house or your grandparents' house? And if so, was that a lot of work? We work with a lot of clients who went through that, and they thought, oh, I'm not going to do that to my kids. And so going through this downsizing process, getting rid of your clutter, I call it right sizing, is really a gift that you can give to your children by dealing with the stuff now so that your kids don't have to.
Okay, well, all right. How do we get rid of it?
Well, there's really only three ways. Okay, it can seem overwhelming, but really you think about, okay, am I going to keep it? Am I going to sell it? Or am I going to donate it? And then sometimes there's a fourth way, and that's just trash. Maybe it's just trash. It needs to go either to the dump or to the recycling center, and it just needs to get out of your house. So when you are sorting, it's important to really, don't just keep it simple, stupid, right? So just think, am I going to keep it? Am I going to sell it? Am I going to donate it? Or am I going to toss it? Those are really the only four categories that exist.
What about things like garage sales, getting rid of it like that way, or auctions or whatever?
Yeah, if you want to sell the items, then there are a couple different ways. You can have a garage sale. You can hire an auction company. My company is an estate sale company. We'll do a tag sale for you. You can sell it online. If you don't feel comfortable selling it online, then get help from some of your family members who can sell it online. They can sell it on Facebook or Craigslist. So those are some options for selling it. Now, I want to caution everyone to think about how much your time is worth, because selling stuff can take a lot of time and a lot of energy. So, but if you feel like the reward is worth all of that work, then absolutely, those are the ways that you can sell the items. Mm-hmm. If you decide you don't want to sell the items, then we look to donation.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And who are the organizations that might be receptive and want the stuff?
Yes. Well, we are right in the middle of COVID-19 right now, and so that has changed things a little bit. However, a lot of the big charity donations here in Lincoln are still accepting donations. So at our company, what we do a lot is we use the People City Mission. Mm-hmm. They're still accepting things, and they give items to people who are homeless or who are kind of on the brink of homelessness. They give those items away for free. And then the People City Mission they're also great recyclers. So if they get things that they can't use, they're really great at finding ways to recycle them. Goodwill stores across the city are still accepting donations. So those are two great ways to donate things. And then there's also lots of smaller organizations that kind of specialize in niche items that can be donated, like the Friendship Home, places like that need, specific things, maybe women's.
The Salvation Army, does not forget Salvation Army.
Yeah, Salvation Army, they're a great one because they will accept pretty much anything and everything. So that's a great option as well. Now, if you are wanting to find an organization that will pick up your donation,
yeah, that's important.
Yeah. My answer to that is, will these donation sites pick up? My answer is sometimes. It kind of depends on who you get on the phone sometimes, and it depends on your time frame. So sometimes these charities get booked out a few weeks. So maybe if you call them with a charity donation, it might be 2 or 3 weeks until they can come and pick it up, which is fine. But if you have someone in your family or a friend who can haul those items to donation for you, if you're not able to do it, then that'll get it out of your house quicker.
What about all the books that we have saved over the course of time? I had a library that you wouldn't believe because I'm a reader. I mean, I loved it. And then I hate to get rid of the books and so they're all sitting there. But what's going to happen when I leave this mortal coil? My son's coming in and it's all going into the garbage. So what can we do with books?
Yeah. And our goal is always to keep it out of the trash if we can. And, Lita, I think one great way to think about that is if a book is sitting on your shelf, no one else can read it, right? So if you're not going to be reading it, then you're kind of keeping it from other people. So let's get those books out into the community so that other people can read them and enjoy them. One of the ways, my favorite place to donate books during normal times is the Lincoln Public Library. Any branch of the library will take donations at any time, and they either add them to their collection or sell them at their annual book sale. Now, I mentioned earlier that we're recording this during COVID-19, and so I think right now the library is not yet accepting donations of books, but Goodwill is still accepting those donations, so you can take them to Goodwill, or you can wait until the library is accepting those books. There's also little free libraries around town. Lita, I don't know if you've seen those.
I've read about them, yeah.
Yeah, they look like little birdhouses kind of, but people put books in them, and people from the community can just take them for free. So that's a great resource as well. But think to yourself, if you have a lot of books, if I'm not going to read it again, then let's get it out into the community so other people can enjoy it.
As we age, our shape changes. We shrink. I've already shrunk 2 inches. And maybe you get bigger, maybe you get smaller, and the clothes don't fit. But you don't want to get rid of them because you paid a lot of money for that particular dress or that coat. So where do you suggest we do what should we do with clothing?
Yeah. Again, if you want to sell it, there are some great consignment shops here in town, and they will potentially sell your clothing for you, but that really only applies if they're, almost new, 1 to 2 or 3 years old. If they're older than that, then lots of times it is a great place, a great thing to do with them. One of the places that we donate a lot of women's clothing to is called the Daisy, and they benefit the Friendship Home, and they have a great little shop up there in Havelock, and people can go and buy secondhand clothing there. And it's a great place to, again, get rid of your excess and help it bless someone else here in the community. If, my rule is if you haven't worn it in a year, then it's time to let it go. And again,
oh no, I keep mine for 30, 40 years.
Oh, well.
A year?
Yeah, because here's the thing, Lita, if you donate your items, as soon as you're done with them, then they still have some life left in them. But if you haven't worn anything for 30 years and you donate it, well, now it might be more like a Halloween costume, that's will.
Oh, okay. Talking about the kitchen, we got so much stuff in the kitchen. What do we do with that?
Again, weed out what you don't need and what you're not using. Ask yourself, how many saucepans do I need? How many soup kettles do I really need? And keep what you need and let go of the rest. A lot of people might have children or grandchildren who are setting up a home or an apartment for the first time. That's a great place to give some of your excess to your family members who can really use it. Maybe they're setting up their own kitchen and they could really put that stuff to good use that's just collecting dust in your kitchen.
You've written a book. This is an interesting book. It's Ready to Downsize.
Yep.
What's in this book?
It is all of my best advice over the last 10 years working as
the stuff we've been talking about today.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, good.
Working as a senior move manager, I help folks downsize their stuff all the time, and I call it right sizing. So my book, Ready to Right Size, it's available on Amazon, and it's my best advice. It's a short read, but the advice in it is invaluable if you yourself need to downsize.
I think all of us need to take this very seriously because this is tough. Do you have any more good suggestions for us?
Well, I've got 2 websites that that viewers can visit, and they're both full of great advice, just like what we've been talking about today. The first is my business, Changing Spaces, SRS.com. That is my company's website here in Lincoln. The other one is easyrightsizing.com. And that is a website that's full of free advice, videos, blogs, and podcast episodes. And it talks all about this. It talks about not only the practical aspects of letting go of stuff, but also kind of getting into the right frame of mind and really thinking about asking the question, how much stuff do I need? And is my stuff a blessing or is it kind of a burden to me? Is it weighing me down? Because boy, I see that a lot, that our stuff really does weigh us down.
What is the most absurd object you've had to deal with?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, huge collections. We worked with one fellow who had a collection of 1,200 ashtrays. So that, everyone has something that they collect. We have worked with several people who have accumulated so much stuff that they can't use entire rooms or entire floors of their home.
Or they rent one of those shelters that they can put in all their extra stuff. I see all those shelters out there and say, why do you want to save all that old stuff?
Right. Stop it. Get rid of it. Let it go.
It's hard to let go.
It is, but I'm here to help.
Well, Janine Bryan was Changing Spaces. You're a very special person, and we do thank you. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn more about fixing and taking care of your stuff.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
Hello and welcome to Live and Learn. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. Today we have an interesting program and one that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is the delivery of information. We are all needing information about all different kinds of things, and it comes in so many different ways, but it's also a time when that delivery of information is constantly changing. And we have a very special guest with us today to tell us a little bit about the delivery of information and where she thinks it's headed. Her name is Dr. Sherry Vale. She is the new Dean of the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. Sherry, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for having me on today.
Let's talk a little bit about you before we get talking about information. You have a fun, interesting story. You're from the Midwest, but as an academic, you have traveled to some other interesting places, a couple of them, again, near and dear to my heart. Tell us a little bit about your travels and how you ended up here in Nebraska.
Absolutely. Well, I am definitely from the Midwest. I was raised on a dairy farm in North Dakota and educated in North Dakota as well, earning my bachelor's and master's and PhD while also working full-time throughout college, first in banking and mortgage lending, then in advertising, marketing, and public relations. When I finally made the leap to academia full-time, I first went to the University of Oklahoma where I taught strategic communication and conducted research with the Center for Risk and Crisis Management. Then I was recruited to the University of Kentucky, where I spent the last decade first as director of the Risk Sciences Division, then associate dean of the College of Communication Information, and then chair of the Department of Communication. And now I am here as dean of the College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln.
Very nice. We should say that we are taping this interview. This is going to run during the month of September. Life is interesting at the university. COVID-19 has made life interesting for all of us all over the country. I know that when you and I chatted a few weeks ago, you had said that you were working very hard, you and your staff and your faculty, in trying to make sure that everything was going to be safe for students when they do indeed come back and have face-to-face classes. So you've got all of that taken care of, right?
It's definitely been a challenge to get all the details together, but working with faculty and staff to figure out which classes are in person and online or hybrid, and moving furniture 6 feet apart and installing sanitizer stations and distributing PPE, notifying the students of all those changes. It's been a challenge, but it's also been completely worth it to see the students back on campus this week, to see them walking down the sidewalks, masks on, ready to go. We had a great session yesterday with all of our incoming freshmen on Zoom, just talking about how they can engage with the faculty and staff. It's been challenging, but it's worth it to have them here.
That's good. And Zoom, we can even sort of talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about technology. It sort of changed the way that we do communicate because of this. And some of it, I think, has been good. Some of it has been bad. You have a grand challenge, I think, as dean of a journalism and communication program in what it is that you teach, because not only is life changing, we have lots of new technologies, different ways of doing these things like Zoom, but we have not gone away from all of the traditional forms of media. Those things are still out there. So how do you create that balance of all of the new with hanging on to some of the old?
It's a challenge, but it's also a recognition that the prediction that journalism is dying or that it was already dead was clearly off the mark. The industry is just changing and evolving along with technology and society. So just as farming equipment has had to adjust to adding technology and that we can run combines now by our phone, we can do things differently in the media too. So things are different, but we're just changing and evolving along with all of the other industries.
Very cool. Let's talk about some of the specific ones. They are going to be some of the traditional ones that I think our audience is still very engaged with. The first one is newspapers. 10, 15 years ago, it was the demise of the newspapers. It's going to go away. And it really hasn't. I mean, it's changed a little bit, and they have had to engage in some social media kinds of things in promotion and delivery of that information. But that newspaper is still there, and it's one that people depend on all the time.
It is. Newspapers are definitely still important. Big newspapers are actually doing just fine. Just this month, beginning of August, it was reported that the New York Times digital revenue for online subscriptions exceeded its print revenue for the first time. But small market newspapers don't have the same level of demand or the advertising revenue streams to keep up with some of these big papers. So where folks have been willing to pay to get past the digital paywall for national news, they haven't necessarily been willing to do that for local news. And then they're upset when the local paper is so thin. But good journalism costs money. And if you aren't willing to pay for it, local newspapers can't afford to cover it. So I think what we'll see here is going to be a shift in some of those local papers continuing to shrivel up unless we as a society decide that that is important to us, to have that local newspaper coverage in our community and be willing to pay more for it.
One of the mainstays in Nebraska has been that small newspaper, that weekly newspaper. Is that something that can survive?
You know, we do have great our organizations like the Nebraska Press Association that works hard to bring in advertising revenue for some of those smaller papers, keeping those traditions alive and that association together is going to be important for those local newspapers. But some will definitely fold as we move forward if the community isn't willing to pay more for them. It's also really hard to recruit journalists into small communities when they can go off and cover big stories elsewhere. It's just the number of students we have coming in who want to go back and cover local journalism is shrinking, and it's going to be a problem for us.
I think that's a shame too, because I started my career in a smaller town, and it was one of those things where you got to do everything and you got to cover everything, and you got to know the mayor and you got to know the sheriff, and you got to go down and have coffee with the farmers in town and find out what was going on. I thought it was a great experience. I loved it.
Yeah, it's just really hard for one person or two people or at three people even to do all that coverage depending on the community.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's switch over to television. Television is an interesting animal unto itself. It has changed pretty dramatically, but again, most local stations still have news, still delivering information to people, and it's pretty critical.
It is, and I think local television news will continue to be around for a long time. I mean, we're definitely in a media on demand society where if we want to learn something, we look it up online, we see the video clip there, we can watch it, we can be up to date. But when there's severe weather going on or something happening in the region, we still turn to local news, both on the box and online. We want to know how it's being covered locally in our area. And I think we still do that with television. Cable news is, of course, a little bit different in that we see it as very partisan, and we watch stations that best align with our values. And we can do that even more effectively online. And that will continue to be both a benefit and a challenge as we build up our echo chamber around us to only hear what we want to hear. But it's not always the truth of what is happening in the world. So I always encourage our students as they're looking at what to watch and what to read, make sure that you're looking at multiple sources for all of your stories.
Yeah, the partisanship, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it just the way that it is now? Is it just what has evolved?
It's what is evolved, primarily because we have social media where we can pick and choose what we want to hear, what we want to see, and we can block things. We can say we don't want to see this story anymore, so then our news feed changes, and we get used to seeing those same sources over and over, and then we start going to them on our own as well. So it's recognizing that we're getting exactly what we're asking for, but it may not necessarily be what we need.
Let's also talk about radio, because I think radio has sort of evolved in that same kind of a fashion. Radio has changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years. Part of that has to be, and we won't get too heavy into it, but the ownership changes to allow for owners to own more stations in a market. It used to be you'd have a lot more diversity that way. So I think in Lincoln there's 3 different owners. They each have 4 different stations. Music's still important, but you have music on your phones now and different ways of getting all of that. Radio is changed, but it still keeps hanging in there.
It is. And actually, radio is seeing a huge resurgence, especially in the areas of depth reporting and long form journalism. Yes, we can get music on our phones now instead of on a frequency, but we can also get incredible podcasts that we can listen to while we're driving, while we're working, sitting out on our back porch. Radio stations that have struck the right balance with this of releasing live podcasts and then releasing it later online on demand, in some cases for a subscription fee, they've seen a huge uptick in listenership. So again, we're looking at the foundation of journalism. Journalism is still there. And actually we're seeing an increase in really in-depth reporting coming out on podcasts right now, which is being streamed out through radio.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and you've got a great faculty member with Rick Alloway, who I know is doing some teaching the students about the podcast, because it's not just flip on the microphone and start talking. It involves some research and understanding your subject and how you deliver that information.
Absolutely. And Rick, of course, is the voice of Nebraska, right? We've heard him for so long, and students who can get their own voice in that manner where they become someone that you want to listen to, but it's always going to come back to the content. You have to actually be delivering something that people want to listen to and that they want to come back and hear again in a different perspective. So I think there's a lot of opportunity coming out of that area. And as long as we can get rid of the idea that it has to be on the radio versus online or on our phone, it's audio. Audio news is what we're looking at today.
How about magazines? I mean, that's something that's been a mainstay for long periods of time. I'm still amazed that I still get magazines delivered through the mail to my house, and I find them interesting and read them. And our own organization has its own magazine, Living Well magazine, which is a great magazine. Is that going to continue, do you think?
Actually, magazines are doing pretty well right now, but they're a leisure activity. The stories have a shelf life because they aren't covering breaking news. So society and lifestyle magazines are actually seeing a gradual increase in readership again in paper format. So it's just as the idea of holding a good book in your hands rather than on your Kindle is seeing a little bit of a resurgence, so too is having that actual paper magazine in your hands. It harkens back to having time and comfort in your home, and to have a good magazine about a hobby or organization you love, it's really important today.
One of the things that has also changed is the way that we should talk about commercials and public service announcements and all of those kinds of things. It used to be the standard 30-second commercial. It was on radio, it was on television. We'd have the big double truck ads in newspapers. We would have the specials for all the grocery stores. But that sort of changed a little bit, hasn't it? The way we see ads now. We see them on Facebook, we see them on our phones, we see them all over the place. So those folks have been very creative in trying to sell us products.
And advertising is definitely more targeted today, but that also means that it's less wasteful. We are an on-demand society. If we want something, we want to read it. If we want to see it, if we want to hear it, we're willing to sit through the ads. But it makes much more sense to show you an ad about something you actually want to buy than it does to show you ads about a million things that you could care less about. So it's a good and a bad thing.
As always, I just glanced at the clock and I'm running out of time. That always seems to happen, but put you on the spot a little bit here, just briefly, not really. Where are we going in the future? How are we going to get information in the future? Is it going to continue to change and evolve?
Absolutely. Just going back to my first question today, is journalism, talking about journalism being dead or dying? It's not at all. It's changing. It's evolving. It's evolving with technology. It's evolving with society. And we need to evolve along with it as educators to make sure that our students are well prepared to work in an industry where you have to be able to go back and forth from audio to print to television to online. It's a whole different world, but we're preparing our students to be ready for it.
Excellent. Will you come back in 6 months and tell us how it's going?
I would love to.
Very good. Sherry, thanks so much for being with us today and giving us some updates on what's happening at the College of Journalism and Mass Communications and what's happening in the world of information delivery. That's all the time we have for this segment. I'm your host, Jerry Renaud. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Randy Jones with Aging Partners. Did you know that Lincoln expects a 75% increase in the number of seniors living in our community over the next 15 years? Aging Partners is a community service that provides fitness programs to help keep older adults strong and healthy. This year, Lincoln Cares donations are providing funds for new fitness equipment. You can help make this happen. Sign up to support Lincoln Cares and add $1 to your LES bill each month.
It is my pleasure to introduce a gentleman I have known and loved since 1970, Dr. Jean Stowes. His successful medical career as an obstetrician-gynecologist speaks for itself. But today, we are going to talk about his amazing experiences in baseball. Welcome, Jean.
Thank you.
Very fun to have you sitting there.
Nice to be here, sweetie.
Good. I would like to start with what you feel was a major influence on your love for and your talent in baseball.
You know, my earliest memories go back to Alma, Kansas, playing catch with my dad, age 3 or 4, taking ground balls, and even had a wooden bat that we used to go out to our unpaved street, grab the rocks, throw it up, hit them, and would do that for hour after hour. And unfortunately, I broke a few neighbors' windows along the way. But anyway, as a family, we moved to Grand Island when I was 7.
Okay.
And that gave me the first opportunity to play organized baseball in Grand Island's Little League program. I can remember at age 11, I figured out how to throw a curveball for the first time, and none of the hitters could hit the curveball, and that served me well. As I got older and the competition got a little stiffer, that became my go-to pitch, my strikeout pitch. And I remember at age 13, my father ordered a pitching machine from a catalog, and we built a batting cage on the farm outside of Grand Island, and all the extra hours of batting practice that served me well down the road.
Everybody enjoyed the pitching machine. Please talk about your high school baseball experience then.
Right, that's very interesting because at that time Grand Island did not have a spring high school season, baseball season, so we were truly the boys of summer. We couldn't wait to play summer baseball. And Grand Island did have a very, very strong Legion program. It was not unusual to play many ball games in front of standing room only crowds, especially when your hometown of Hastings would come to Ryder Park, or we would go to Duncan Field in Hastings.
And you would pitch and you would win. I always knew that.
All the games were broadcast live on KRGI radio, and even our bus trips that we would take, we would always take a sports writer from the Grand Island Daily Independent. And the next day in the newspaper, that would always be the lead article of how important baseball was to Grand Island.
So what were some of the honors that came your way in high school then?
Well, going back for this interview and going through some of the scrapbooks, I had the opportunity to play Legion ball 3 summers. I made the team as a 16-year-old, and I was laser focused. That was my goal, is to be a starting pitcher for the Grand Island Legion team. That meant more to me than playing in the College World Series,
sure,
college baseball, or even in the major leagues. So some of the statistics that I looked up, over 3 summers, I had a record of 32 wins and only 2 losses against Nebraska competition. 323 innings pitched, 546 strikeouts. A lot of these numbers, I think, are still records in Grand Island. For the games that I pitched, there were 20 strikeouts or more, and the most I ever had was 24 strikeouts in 9 innings against York. The picture with the trophy, that was the most valuable player award for the Cornhusker Legion League, and I won that 2 different times.
So then the Oakland A's.
Right. That got the attention of the professional teams. I was drafted by Oakland out of high school, but I also received a full-ride scholarship to the University of Nebraska from the baseball coach, Tony Sharp. So my parents and I talked about, well, what's the best thing for a naive 17-year-old kid to do? We felt it would be best to go to school, get an education, and have the opportunity to play at the university.
So you did go to the university for 4 years. Just hit a few of the high points of your 4-year college career.
Right, that was really a thrill to be able to be both a student and an athlete. All the relationships you build with teammates, and some of these guys we still stay in touch with, we golf with, and but the opportunity to play a Division I from a freshman on was really a thrill. The first 2 years I was primarily a pitcher, but as we transitioned to junior and senior year, I became more of a leadoff hitter, a center fielder. I was the rabbit that had to catch the,
You had speed.
the fly ball. I could run pretty well, so that was how I transitioned to mainly an outfielder.
Okay, and a couple of the honors that you received during college?
Right. I sort of put everything together in my senior year, had a very good senior year, was voted all Big 8, first team outfielder. The Sporting News put me as first team All-American as an outfielder, and that is voted on by the Major League Scouts, so that had a little extra prestige to it. And majoring in chemistry, I also was academic All-American a couple years.
So the semi-pro ball clubs recognized this, and you were afforded the opportunity to play 2 summers of semi-pro ball. Very briefly, what does semi-pro refer to?
Semi-pro teams is a hybrid between amateur baseball teams on one side, where all the players are amateurs, versus on the other flip side, where they're all professionals and being paid to play. So a semi-pro team could have amateurs as well as prior professionals playing on the same team.
Okay, all right. Where did you play the summer after your sophomore year at the university?
Right, I was recruited to play for Liberal, Kansas. A lot of my teammates were from all over the country, college players. Our manager that summer was Bob Serve. Bob was from Weston or Wahoo. He played for the New York Yankees, roomed with Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle. Won a World Series or 2 with them, so that was really quite a thrill to play for a former major leaguer.
And a nice Nebraska connection. A couple of the players on that team?
Yes, 2 of my teammates went on to have amazing big league careers. First was Phil Garner, University of Tennessee. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, won a World Series with them, and ended his major league career managing the Milwaukee Brewers and the Houston Astros. The other was Ron Guidry, University of Louisiana, Lafayette, a little crafty left-handed pitcher. He went on to play many years for the New York Yankees, and in 1978 he was voted the Cy Young Award, which is the best pitcher in the American League with a win-loss record of 25-3.
You knew them well.
He was one of the few Yankees that has his number retired in Yankee Stadium.
Very nice, very nice. All right, then talk about the end of that season, the national tournament.
Yes, the semi-pro summer league meets at the end of the year to play for the national championship in Wichita, Kansas. Now think of the College World Series of 8 teams, add 24 more teams to that, and you have a 32-team double elimination tournament. It's a huge, huge tournament, a big deal. And our Liberal team that summer came in 3rd place. We lost to one of the Alaska teams and to the eventual winners, the Grand Rapids, Michigan team. On that picture there, you see Ron Guidry in the middle being congratulated by Steve Rogers and Kenny Alfrey. And that's, we had just won the state tournament.
You were on a high. Then the summer after your junior year at the university, you played for the Anchorage Glacier Pilots. Just playing baseball in Alaska was an interesting experience.
To put it mildly,
Yes.
Yeah, I jumped at that opportunity to play in Alaska. Of course, that's the land of the midnight sun. And some of our games, we would play in the wee hours of the night, especially in Fairbanks, which had a farther northern latitude, and we would never need to turn on the lights.
That's right.
Another moment that I will always cherish is that we played the Los Angeles Dodgers top minor league team, AAA team from Spokane. Tommy Lasorda was the manager, and we ended up winning that game 16-6 by the 10-run rule in 8 innings.
Wow, what a thrill.
So
what a thrill.
at that time I knew I could play with the big boys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there were 2 Alaska teams, one being the Fairbanks Gold Panners, and we have one iconic picture to show. What do we see in this photo, Jean?
Yeah, this is a little blurry, but again, it was taken 50 years ago. That shows me getting a base hit off of a pitcher. The pitcher is a 19-year-old kid named Dave Winfield. He was from the University of Minnesota. Of course, he went on to go into Cooperstown, Major League Hall of Fame, as well as the College Baseball Hall of Fame as an outfielder for the San Diego Padres. The umpire, his name is Emmett Ashford. Emmett was the first black umpire to work in the major leagues and also the first black umpire to work a World Series. He retired in 1970. The Anchorage Corporation called him and asked him if he would come out of retirement and umpire for us in Anchorage the following summer. He agreed, and that was kind of cool to have a
very
someone of his stature behind the plate that entire summer.
So let's talk just a minute about how we even ended up with this photo.
Well,
that's fun.
When Dave Winfield was inducted into the College Hall of Fame in 2006, he was in Omaha for the College World Series. In an interview with the Omaha World Herald, he said he wished he had evidence that he pitched, because his kids growing up only remembered him as a Hall of Fame outfielder. So that took you and I downstairs to our home movie videos. We put this on and watched it, and there, lo and behold, was Dave Winfield pitching to me. So we made a DVD copy of that, sent it to Dave, and he sent it to the College Baseball Hall of Fame in Lubbock, Texas. So
yeah, we were thrilled. It was quite a find. Then your team, the Anchorage Glacier Pilots, had more than a few notable players. Talk about them for just a brief moment.
Whew.
Yeah, I know.
That was an amazing team. Of our 18-man travel squad, 9 players ended up in the major leagues. There you'll see a picture of Randy Jones from Chapman College. He was our best pitcher. He went on to win the Cy Young Award as the best National League pitcher in 1976 for the San Diego Padres. Bump Wills from Arizona State. He was the son of Major Leaguer Maury Wills, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Very nice.
Bump also played in the All-Star game. Bruce Bachty played in the All-Star game. And Mike Pereira is kind of interesting. Mike never played professional baseball, but his career ended up in the National Football League. He was, at the end of his career, the head of the NFL referees. And at this point in time, he is a Fox Sports consultant. Whenever they review plays at the collegiate or professional level, you'll many times see Mike on there for his opinion on the plays that is being reviewed.
So then at the end of the summer was the national tournament again, and how did that go for your team?
Well, again, as I mentioned, there were 32 teams in the national tournament, and lo and behold, it comes down to the national championship game to the 2 Alaska teams. And Randy Jones pitched for us. He went the entire 9 innings, and Dave Winfield was pitching for Fairbanks. I was the leadoff hitter, got a base hit, was bunted to second, and scored the winning run after Larry Corrigan hit a double off the wall.
What a thrill. So you got to be the winning run over the plate.
Yeah, that still gets me choked up whenever I think about it.
Well, that was a pinnacle. Well, Jean, our time is drawing short here. This takes us to your senior year at the university. You applied to medical school and were accepted, and after that, you had 2 more chances to play pro ball.
Right. After my senior year, I was drafted by the White Sox, 3rd round, to be an outfielder. But medical school was starting in July 1st, and we were all going to be accelerated in the 3-year program, so I couldn't do both. So it was a difficult decision for a 21-year-old kid what to do. But the financial rewards in professional sports was not there in those years. So I went to med school. 6 months later, in the winter draft, the Cleveland Indians drafted me in the 2nd round, again as an outfielder. So I had my opportunities to play professional baseball, but I graduated from med school in 1975.
Yeah, your course was set. Jean, our time is out. We just want to give a quick shout out to the Nebraska Baseball Hall of Fame that you are also inducted in, which is a wonderful place in Beatrice to visit.
Right, very, very nice honor. This Nebraska Semi-Pro Baseball Hall of Fame is in Beatrice. I was inducted in 2011. Wonderful honor, thrilled to be considered. And if you are ever in Beatrice and would like to go through the museum, it is very well done.
Yes, it is. We need to close our interview today as we put up on screen our photo that was taken in the year 1971 in Anchorage on your Field of Dreams. I have to say that although you would have undoubtedly been a great major leaguer, the thousands of patients you have helped over the years are certainly glad that you chose medicine. Never been a dull moment.
It never has.
All right, you can help me end this segment.
All
Please
right.
remember, it's
Never too late to live and learn.